understand this complex genius, this visionary thinker. Will we ever get this close again, uniting the forces of our universe?
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Age of Reason. Today is episode 44. It's April the 12th, 2019. And today I'm going to be talking about the power of fossil fuel industry lobbying. So as we all know, they spent a lot of money into buying pretty much our politicians. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Just before I start, I'd like to mention my book very quickly, Beyond the Obscure. Please get it. It's a great work of fiction. It's very short. It's a fast read. The pace is very fast, so that was on purpose. Check out my art on Redbubble as well. Before I start today, I just want to begin with this actually. So I want to focus on this because it comes up all the time, and especially on social media. And so the argument basically goes here that, I argued that the DNC cheated in the last primaries, which we know they did. I also argued that pretty much 30 to 40% of eligible voters do not vote every election. That has been the case as far as the records go anyway, as far as we know. So this is a fact. It's not really debatable. But this person says, I still disagree with your count. Many of us voted, the other side cheated. So basically what he's saying here is that I feel that you're wrong. Okay, but there are official statistics about that. So I don't care about what you feel. I really don't care about your emotions. I don't want to jump into the swimming pool of emotions. Elections, unfortunately, are a lot about emotion and not enough about rationality. If everybody voted rationally, we'd have the right president and the right government all the time, but it doesn't happen. And this is one reason why. I just wanted to start on that because it's important that people think with their feelings and not with their brain. So today's article, first of all, I'm going to start from another article, which I'll probably cover next week, but just a few excerpts from it. The WMO statement, and that's the World Meteorological Organization, on the state of global climate in 2018, highlights record sea level rise, as well as exceptionally high land and ocean temperatures over the past 4 years. The warming trend has lasted since the start of this century and is expected to continue. These key climate change indicators are becoming more pronounced. CO2 levels, which were at 357 parts per million when the statement was first published in 1994, keep rising to 405.5 parts per million in 2017. Of course, as you can imagine, these estimates are going to rise. And I have a graph here, which is a great graph, the one that you should really remember from all these shows. And it goes back quite a while. It goes back maybe 500,000 years ago or so. And you can see that, it's basically cycles. It goes up and down, yes, but these are the natural cycles, so to speak. And if you look on the far extreme there, that's where we are. And we are way, way above what would be the natural line. So definitely not normal. This is new territory. And well, who knows really what the impacts will be, but we already know a lot of impacts. Nothing positive. So the article I want to focus on today is this, and it talks about top oil firms spending millions lobbying to block climate change policies, says report. Remember at the beginning I said that people vote with their feelings a lot. I'm going to come back to that in a second. It's important. The largest 5 stock market listed oil and gas companies spend nearly $200 million a year lobbying to delay, control, or block policies to tackle climate change, according to a new report. And these Again, read that again. It says the top 5 stock market listed oil companies. So, of course, there are more, and that means that the total they spend is more than 200 million. Just bear that in mind. Chevron, BP, and ExxonMobil were the main companies leading the field in direct lobbying to push against the climate change policy to tackle global warming, the report said. Increasingly, they are using social media to successfully push their agenda to weaken and oppose any meaningful legislation to tackle global warming. So this is important. So again, I repeat what I said at the beginning of the show. A lot of people vote with their emotions. They don't vote rationally, which is very unfortunate. I always fight people on that. Even atheists. Look, I don't care, because atheist just means, hey, we don't believe in God. But you're completely open on any other field. So, yeah, I fight with everybody as long as they're irrational people. You have to fight irrational people. So that aspect I never ever understood. So these companies spent a lot of money on social media to weaken legislation, etc. Basically to confuse the people. All right, I understand that part. Why do you care? Why does it matter? Every election in the US, we hear about this situation. A candidate spend millions and millions of dollars on campaign ads, etc. Look, why do you care? Why are you even watching these ads? I don't understand. I really don't get it. I mean, I'm well informed on most candidates. Is one ad gonna sway my opinion? No, not really. Especially, I know that it's mostly lies anyway. It's just propaganda. They're trying to bump each other down using whatever method they can imagine. So I don't understand this thing. Who cares if they spend $100 million, $200 million? It really doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter, but it does apparently. It's very effective. In the run-up to the US midterm elections last year, $2 million was spent on targeted Facebook and Instagram ads, again, shouldn't matter, by global oil giants and their industry bodies, promoting the benefits of increased fossil fuel production, according to the report published by Influence Map. Separately, BP donated $13 million to a campaign, also supported by Chevron, to successfully stop a carbon tax in Washington state, $1 million of which was spent on social media ads, the research shows. So again, I don't understand why it matters. Why can't people just be educated enough on a subject so that these ads, which are mostly misinformation, they have no impact on people? That's what we should get to. That's the stage I'm trying to get people to via this show. I'm trying to tell you how to think and reason properly, analytically, with evidence. You'll save a lot of time, trust me, if you just analyze things properly and not using your emotions. That's very important. There is a time and place for everything. There is a time and place for emotions, but there is a time and place for rationality. And elections are important things. They should be based on rationality. Watching dramas on TV and, some celebrity dying, then please use your emotions all you want. Cry out your eyes. Edward Collins, the report's author, analyzed corporate spending on lobbying, briefing, and advertising, and assessed what proportion was dedicated to climate issues. He said, oil majors' climate branding sounds increasingly hollow, and their credibility is on the line. They publicly support climate change while lobbying against binding policy. And we see that all the time. This happens all the time in the US especially. People vote against their best self-interests. It happens all the time. It goes from GMO labeling to debates on abortion and healthcare. Happens all the time. And in the end, people vote against the best solution. Always. It's always the rich people who win. Always. Because again, they appeal to emotions. They make people angry for that last push, in the last day or 2 days or 3 days before a vote. that's when they really focus on people's emotions to you get all angry, like, ugh! And then you vote against your best self-interest because you're irrational when you're emotional. You can't really be both, I think. They advocate low carbon solutions, but such investments are dwarfed by spending on expanding their fossil fuel business. After the Paris Agreement in 2015, the large integrated oil and gas companies said they supported a price on carbon, so carbon tax, right? And formed groups like the Oil and Gas Climate Initiative. So every time you have a name like that, Oil and Gas Climate Initiative, trust me, it's BS, okay? Of course, they are not for any kind of progressive agenda. And of course, they promote voluntary measures. So I like that phrase because this goes basically to libertarians out there. I don't have trust, I don't have faith in human beings in general. So they say the government is bad, but we're going to have these average Joes, right? And then everybody has that kind of equal power. That's a fantasy right away. And voluntary measures, okay. So if you don't pay taxes, if you're against taxes, you don't like that system, you want to tell me that you're going to donate your money voluntarily to causes? Come on, I don't trust that for 1 second at all. At least the taxes make you participate in the system. Without it, I'm sure you wouldn't. But the report states there is a glaring gap between their words and their actions, of course. The 5 publicly listed oil majors, ExxonMobil, Shell, Chevron, BP, and Total, now spend about $195 million a year on branding campaigns suggesting they support action against climate change. But the report said these campaigns were misleading the public about the extent of the oil companies' action because while publicly endorsing the need to act, they are massively increasing investment in huge expansion of oil and gas extraction. So the Arctic, right? That's the kind of big next battlefield. There's a lot of countries, US, I think China, Russia definitely, are all trying to get their hands on it because it's very rich in resources. In 2019, their spending will increase to $115 billion, with just 3% of that directed at low carbon projects. So they say that, hey, we're gonna, save the environment, and we need to save the environment. We need to cut down the dirty fuel emissions, etc. So they use $115 billion, but only 3% of that goes to basically renewables. Shell said in a statement, well, of course, so you have to read this in a kind of oligarch voice. So, we firmly reject the premise of this report. We are very clear about our support for the Paris Agreement and the steps that we are taking to help meet society's needs for more and cleaner energy. I don't know, I guess that's how oligarchs are speaking. But this is such nonsense, though. We make no apology for talking to policymakers and regulators around the world to make our voice heard, or what that means is to bribe politicians, basically, on crucial topics such as climate change and how to address it. Yeah, but they knew that thing. Exxon did the research 40, 50 years ago. They did find that increased CO2 emissions lead to more extreme climate change. So they themselves know about this very well, but because they wanted to make more money, to keep making money, they suddenly figured out that, hey, wait a second, we don't need to actually change our policies. We can just confuse the people because people are dumb anyway, which is true to a large extent. I mean, the average person is very dumb, like I said in the previous show. So yeah, then you just misinform the people and you continue making huge profits. Chevron said it disagreed with the report's findings, of course. What do you expect? Chevron has taken prudent, cost-effective actions and is committed to working with policymakers, which again means just bribing politicians, to design balanced and transparent greenhouse gas emission reductions policies that address environmental goals and ensure consumers have access to affordable, reliable, and ever cleaner energy. Wow, such bullshit. It's incredible. But you know what? It works because maybe a person reads this article, and this is the only paragraph because, again, people have very short attention span. They have very little time these days because of work, etc. So maybe they have this whole article and maybe they just read this one little paragraph and wow, it sounds like Chevron is doing a good job. They're doing, they're spending money and they're talking to policymakers and they want to deliver you more reliable and ever cleaner energy. Great. If that's your takeaway from this whole article, you missed the entire point. And unfortunately, most people miss that point because most people do not have the time and energy to actually study this in detail. So that's it for this show. Look, I hope you find it interesting. This is very important to understand the detail and understand how to think logically and rationally, especially when it comes to important issues. When it comes to more kind of, again, if you're watching your TV dramas and some character dies, whatever, then, fine, be emotional all you want. But when it comes to important things, we see evidence of that all the time. If people vote emotionally, it's almost always never a rational decision in the end. So then you can't really complain too much. All right. On that note, that's it for today. Just remind you that please check out my book, Beyond the Obscure. It's available on Amazon. I know people have bills to pay, etc. Me too. This is a very good book. Check it out. Check out my art on Redbubble as well. There's posters, etc. And I will try to make a show next week. So yeah, until then,